MD, Director of the Courtnry Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtnry, MD.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health for every day, our goal to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health, heard every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtnry, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and where we always encourage you to call in and join in. Today, a little bit of both. I promised you the other day to bring you a fascinating piece of science to try to allow you to get rid of that blood pressure medicine that you may be taking. You may not be taking it, maybe it's your spouse. It may be somebody in your family, and they may be on multiple blood pressure medicines. But as it turns out, there is a natural way to lower your blood pressure to get you off of those medicines. We're going to be talking about them today. And in the course of it, you may decide that you want to call up and ask a question, either related to the blood pressure control issue, or, of course, anything on your mind is okay with me too. To do that, just dial up 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. And as soon as I hear you knock on the door, I will let you in the store. Blood pressure control without pharmaceutical drugs. I'm interested, aren't you? Well, we'll find out right after our first break today just how that can be accomplished. Looking at the calendar, got, of course, Deborah Ray coming up on Monday. You don't want to miss it. Deborah Ray, it's been a while now since she's been back with us. She is very much involved, as I think you know, with Fruit of the Spirit. She brought the initial messages to us concerning Fruit of the Spirit. By the mere fact that she put her full force and reputation behind it, what I mean is that behind Fruit of the Spirit, it was just an automatic for me to trust her, as many of you have done for so many years. And she's even more invested now with her time and efforts than she was then. She's written a book. The book is called Harmony. She's written it in conjunction with Dr. John Young and Dr. Aida Reyes. The three of them put this thing together. We've got hundreds of copies here. Come on in to see us. We'll give you a free copy of it, no doubt about it. And also a swig of that Fruit of the Spirit, 14 biblical fruit purees, alkalinized minerals from the Dead Sea, resveratrol, frankincense, and myrrh. Anyway, I won't go over that list in any drawn-out fashion, but we'll be talking to Deborah Ray about it on Monday. You don't want to miss it. Got a couple other calls from the publicists, some additional guests. Have not inked them, haven't signed them up yet, but it's right around the corner, and as we fill out the rest of the month of May, which is just clipping along here at a fantastic rate, I hope you'll enjoy what we bring to you. I thought our repeat guest of Mark Underwood, and this is a theme that I see playing out in front of me over and over again, especially now that you, the listener, have been brought up to speed on that there's something that can be done to get that memory loss back. I believe that you've been out there, and I understand how the mentality can develop to almost make you feel like, well, there's not a thing I can do. It's a pretty scary situation. In fact, the fear of it almost prevents us from speaking about it. It's probably our worst nightmare to think that we might be hit with this terrible disease called, well, organic brain syndrome, or it could be called Alzheimer's, whatever it's called. It certainly isn't something that any of you or myself are looking forward to. And so those little bits of memory loss that give us our first hint that things aren't just going awry. I thought we had an adequate explanation for that with our guest Mark Underwood on Wednesday. And there's hope. because of that incandescent jellyfish that turns out has a substance which is a calcium binding protein. They utilize that calcium binding protein in a supplement, a non-prescription form of calcium binding protein called Prevagen. And you're going to be hearing a lot more about Prevagen. I mentioned to Mark a couple of times now, I'll mention it to you, that I think teaming up the Prevagen, which is a brand new entry into this what can I do about memory loss area, I think teaming it up with ECP is going to turn out to be a fantastic way to deal with even the most profound, and I've seen profound cases of memory loss and Alzheimer's present in front of me. And in the day I did not have Prevagen, I did have ECP, and I saw a miraculous turnaround. I'm hoping to team up both of them. And so if you have issues with either yourself or a member of the family, consider doing just that. We carry the Prevagen line here in the office now. We carry the professional line of Prevagen. This is a little different than the readily available in multiple stores. I think I heard it loud and clear that it's everywhere. You may find it at Rite Aid, I heard him say. The Waltz, also, I heard him mention on an earlier show. But that's the standard product. Nothing wrong with it. The dose is just a little lighter. But the professional line product, double the dose, is one that we carry. So we'll be bringing Mr. Mark Underwood back with us. We'll be bringing other members of his group back with us to get more information on this. It's just so important, especially with all the discussions we've had recently about aging, about memory loss as a part of aging, and what to do about it. And it turns out with the aging, well, that's chronology. There's not much you can do about the chronology, but how healthy you are as the chronology passes by, and how much the quality of life maintains itself, I think is something that you all understand is well within your purview and well within your ability to control. So more about Prevagen as time passes on. You may have some questions about it today. Don't forget, if you do, the number 412-825-6262. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a short break. And when I come back, I want to talk to you about blood pressure control. Are you on a blood pressure medicine? Would you like to get off of the blood pressure medicine? I think many of you would say yes. There turns out to be science-backed, natural ways to do it. I'm always asked the question. This one just came by me. I never heard of this before, but I went to the science and it backs it up, and I'm willing to share it with you. We will be back in a moment.
This is Dennis J. Courtnry, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu with Wondrous Way, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural, whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Through the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Through the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call us now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning and welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Here on this Friday version, this usually get 'em up out of town version of the show, where oftentimes we open it up to you. We do intend to do that today, so you should be put on notice. If you want to get in here and sort of take over the place, 412-825-6262 is the phone number to do it, 412-825-6262. I have some things I'd like to share with you. And always enjoy when you share what you have with all of us. This is something I really enjoy sharing with you. When I first came across it about 2 weeks ago, I said, "My goodness, I missed this. I've never seen anything written about this before in this way." And as I read more and checked out what I was reading, I found that the science backed this up completely. Now, this all has to do with this naturally occurring vitamin. This wonderful vitamin everybody seems to be putting a lot of emphasis on. A lot of credence is being paid to it. The conventional medical community, in their own putrid way, also seems to recognize that they've been way off on the use of something called, now here it comes, I won't surprise you with this, vitamin D. Well, yes, vitamin D is, at least around here, it's been ruling the office of mine for about over a year now. Every single patient that ever comes to see me, we'll be getting blood work on right after our first visit, and we will get a vitamin D level. I think I've reported to you, if it's been a while, I'm going to let you know that of the hundreds of people now over this last year that I've measured, I have found only four that had a normal vitamin D level. And in every single case, these 4 people were taking what would be considered massive amounts by the conventional medical community. They're not massive amounts in my mind. They were taking usually between 5,000 and 10,000 units a day. And they had been doing so, as I asked them when I confronted them by saying, okay, hey, you're really unusual. You 4 or 5 people, you got a normal vitamin D level. How did you do that? Well, they said, look, I've been taking vitamin D. And that's when I found out that they were taking at least 5,000, sometimes up to 10,000. And they've been doing so, in one case, for over a year and a half. Now, that's how they got to get above normal. And because I shared with them, as I'm now sharing with you, of the literature that I was exposed to, where the incidence of just about every disease you can name has been plotted out with respect to the equator of the world and moving north and south away from the equator. You should know that every single disease that I could conceivably speak of and that you could come and mention to me about increases in its incidence the further away you get from the equator. It was that kind of plotting that really brought my attention to the use of vitamin D for just about all things. So it had to do with cardiovascular disease, it had to do with cancers, 2 admittedly really large groups of patients of mine, but every other disease too, MS, Lou Gehrig's, diabetes, and the list goes on and on and on. What I never really captured and should have been able to make the jump to was, well, if it seems to be every disease possible, what about hypertension as one of the manifestations of cardiovascular disease? And it is that, in fact, that showed up in a newsletter from Dr. Jonathan Wright. Many of you know him. He's a alternative medical doctor located in the state of Washington. He is brilliant. I know him personally, and in his newsletter, I've gotten components and pieces of it scattered throughout my history, where I learned quite a bit what Jonathan has to offer. Now, this newsletter is one that bypassed me. And it's a newsletter that's entitled The Blood Pressure Regulator You Need to Know About. One vitamin, they say, could replace ACE inhibitors altogether. So remember that word, ACE, A-C-E, because we're going to have to get into a little bit of medicine for you to understand how it is that vitamin D can do what vitamin D does with respect to correcting your blood pressure and enabling you to get off blood pressure medicine. Here were the lead-up components to the description found in the newsletter. By the way, the newsletter is dated. Issue 1, Volume 11, Issue 1, January of 2004. Six years ago. But nonetheless, it's as important now as it would have been 6 years ago. He goes on to say a lot of solid research behind the use of vitamin D as a blood pressure regulator has already taken place. In fact, it might just rival one of the major blood pressure drug categories, and those are called ACE inhibitors. Once again, remember that word ACE. We're going to be getting to it in a moment. So what about how you stumble across this? And it turns out there were 5 points made by Dr. Wright in his newsletter. The first, people living near the equator are less likely to have hypertension. Well, that's sort of in keeping with what I said. I plotted out, and you could see the incidence of all diseases increases the further you get away from the equator, whether you're moving north in the northern hemisphere or south in the southern hemisphere. Nonetheless, all diseases, why not blood pressure as a manifestation of cardiovascular disease? It is likely to be less likely to present itself in or near the equator. Number 2, it's also been observed that blood pressures tend to be higher in the winter. Well, that would be in keeping with a vitamin D link, at least, because in areas where there is no direct sunlight, which I've already told you appears to be, at least in the northern hemisphere, above the 35th parallel, which is somewhere around Atlanta, Georgia. If you live north of Atlanta, Georgia, between the months of September and May, it's impossible for you to get any direct sunlight at all. Consequently, you cannot convert the sunlight that hits your skin into calciferol, from calciferol to cholecalciferol, and ultimately to active forms of vitamin D. So that's point number 2 in the research. Number 3, one recent large study, and I always like when there are large studies, when science has been involved. One recent large study demonstrated a distinct connection between increases in blood pressure and the distance people live from the equator. So there was a special study with blood pressure being what was considered that has been done and shows that link very, very clearly. Additional science, I say, that bears to be taken into account when trying to formulate and make generalized statements. Number 4, this comes out of the Lancet, which is a very prestigious British journal of medicine, and it reported several years ago that ultraviolet light exposure, which increases the body's internal vitamin D production, lowered blood pressure in individuals with mild essential hypertension. And 2 other small clinical trials showed that vitamin D supplementation reduces both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Taken all together, all these studies tend to indicate, and the observations that come along with them, that vitamin D is the nature's leading blood pressure regulator, and I can't recall ever seeing vitamin D touted in that way. So if all that research has been available, if it's been published in such prestigious journals as The Lancet, as well as other journals, then it would be my colleagues, the scientific world, trying to come up with the mechanism for how it could do it. I mean, one thing is to find that a phenomenon such as this exists. We're living further away from the equator, higher incidence of blood pressure, closer to the equator, lesser incidence. Okay, there's a semi-link. But to find out what the mechanism is for how vitamin D could influence your blood pressure, we need to get a little more scientific. So bear with me. It's not very profound science, but it is the science that allows you to make the scientific connection between lowering blood pressure and how it can be done through various mechanisms. Turns out that one of the major causes of high blood pressure is the release of a substance called angiotensin II. Big word, but it is a substance that your body makes when it feels like it has to release some way to have your blood pressure increase. And there would be times, shock, for instance, where blood pressure tends to be lowered, profoundly so, where you could use such a mechanism to help you out. Angiotensin II is produced by another substance called, here it is, angiotensin converting enzyme, otherwise known as ACE. Once again, standing for angiotensin converting enzyme, known as ACE. When ACE is allowed free rein, it sometimes produces too much angiotensin II, and the excess angiotensin II constricts blood vessels, which then raises blood pressure. This mechanism is well understood in science and has led to the formation of a host of medications that are available now out of the market, and those medications are called ACE inhibitors. Now, you may not understand that category in the term that's been given, but you may understand some of the representatives, pharmaceutical preparations in that category, and they turn out to be any of the medications that end with the syllable pril, like enalapril, like captopril. There are a couple others that are lisinopril would be another common one I've seen. There are some others that are in stealth and not have that ending of pril, things like Vasotec, Lotensin, Zestril, Altex, Capitan. These are all known and approved and pharmaceutically manufactured ACE inhibitors, which prevent the conversion of angiotensin I to angiotensin II. And as it turns out, that's exactly what vitamin D does. That was what I never really had heard before. This eventually, if angiotensin II is allowed free rein, it leads to abnormal thickening of both the heart muscle, the blood vessel walls. It increases output of adrenaline, also a substance which would cause blood vessels to constrict, and a similar substance increases the output of another blood pressure raising hormone, an additional one you may not also have heard of, called aldosterone. So researchers have gotten to the very substance, the scientific mechanism, and they've been able to determine that ACE inhibition, which has led to a category of a host of pharmaceutical interventions which are approved and which actually do lower blood pressure, as it turns out, vitamin D is equal to the task of being able to do the same. And in fact, you should be able, especially if you're taking an ACE inhibitor. But even if you're not, there is a way to get your blood pressure corrected by using this natural approach to preventing the conversion of angiotensin I to angiotensin II, because it blocks the enzyme called ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme. Therefore, you don't need to take a pharmaceutically approved way to take an ACE inhibitor. you can have a natural substance do the same. And when we come back, I'll talk to you about more or less how maybe you should consider doing it. And you may have questions for me too. 412-825-6262. Here it is, a natural way to take care of blood pressure issues. Be right back. In a moment, we'll talk more about it.
Have you been to the doctor lately? Was fatigue top of your complaint list? Even if your doctor asks you what you eat, the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is a dream in your busy schedule. What if you learned of a product 5 years in the formulation that delivers 5 servings of fruits and minerals in just 1 ounce? That's right, it's Fruit of the Spirit. The blessings of Fruit of the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith. Let Fruit of the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call us now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtnry, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health here on this Friday version, get 'em up out of town version of the show. Looks like a great weekend is in store for all of you out there in the Pittsburgh area. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. We normally like to keep it upbeat on Friday. I think that the topic I just discussed with you is extremely upbeat, especially giving you another option to try to deal with a pretty common problem. Many of the patients I see are on blood pressure medicines, and they would love to get on them for sure. I've been using vitamin D in great dosages for quite some time, but I never really focused in on the blood pressure component by itself. It turns out many studies have been done on it, mechanisms have been elaborated on how it works, and it was just something that I had to share with every one of you so that you can put in your own little encyclopedia, your own little black book, your own little diary about how you tend to want to help yourself. And vitamin D ingestion is one of the best things you can do anyway. But if you have a specific problem, hypertension, you can focus like a laser beam on it. So we're allowing you to give us a call if you have anything on your mind about whether it's blood pressure or not. Anything on your mind is okay with me. 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Now, a little bit of advice about how maybe you should consider going about increasing your vitamin D intake and how you should be able to arrive at the appropriate level of vitamin D, and then how you should be able to maintain that newly arrived at level. So these are 3 elements of vitamin D replacement that I feel are extremely important. Now, I've noticed that the conventional medical community, colleagues of mine, other medical doctors have noted the importance of vitamin D. So much so that you hardly ever hear of them speaking of the taking of vitamin D, which I would say 2 or 3 years ago was always at a dose of around 400 units a day. In fact, if you look at a multiple vitamin, you'll probably see that that's just about how much vitamin D is included in the daily amount that you should be taking. Now, unfortunately, vitamin D got a bad rap. And the bad rap that vitamin D got, that sort of panicked and made fearful all of my colleagues, is the fact that vitamin D is one of the fat-soluble vitamins. And there are 4 of them: vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. And so, because of the category that it found itself in, it got a bad rap. It was implicated incorrectly, and because of it, there's been a fear on the part of the conventional medical community to reach rational dosaging, for there was another fear that you could become toxic from vitamin D. Now, I think the reason that that step was taken is because vitamin A is well known to be able to, it's well known to be able to become toxic on vitamin A. And because of the relative ease by which one can become toxic from this fat-soluble vitamin, it was just assumed that, oh my goodness, we got this other fat-soluble vitamin called vitamin D. We don't want to mess around with this. Vitamin A, well, certainly seen where it could become toxic. So to prevent any possibility of toxicity, we're going to put the daily requirement, to 400 units of vitamin D. And that's the way the established medical community has proceeded for years. Now you'll see colleagues of the conventional medical community get rather brazen, get rather bold, get pretty frisky, and say, you know what, I want you to up your vitamin D intake to, and you almost see a quiver in their lips. They get a little nervous, and then they would say, well, at least 1,000 a day. 1,000 units it is. Now, 400 was a joke. 1,000 turns out to be even a bigger joke, because if you know that there's some importance to be placed on vitamin D, and you're only willing to go to about 1,000 units, you're really labeling yourself as a dumbcoff, in my opinion. So, 400 units a day, 1,000 units a day, 2,000 units a day, 4,000 units a day, I believe, are too paltry an amount to raise your vitamin D level. Remember what I told you? I have had only 4 patients whom I measured the vitamin D levels in all of my patients ever come in with at least a normal vitamin D. We're going to be talking about what that is in a moment. And every single time, they were taken of at least between 5,000 and 10,000 units a day. And they had been doing so for well over a year in those cases. So what is a normal vitamin D level? I think the first premise that you should go by when trying to say, all right, I want to really focus on vitamin D, is not to be out in the dark about your own vitamin D level. Especially, and even if you have been taking these higher amounts of 1,000 and 2,000 and the like, you should start this all off by getting tested for what your vitamin D level is. Now, unfortunately, and this is what ends up causing some confusion, is that there are 4 or 5 different vitamin D measurements that can be taken. And so if you go to any draw station and the doctor has written for a vitamin D level, he thinks he did right by writing the prescription that way. But what he doesn't understand is there's 5 different measurements that can be taken. And so the people at the draw station grab the book, and whatever's listed first out of the 5, that's the one they'll usually get. You need to have a bit of sophistication and have specifically requested 25 OH-D3 as the appropriate measurement. And in only so doing will you be able to get an accurate read on where you stand. So you can't write for vitamin D level, that's too confusing. You can't even ask for the active form of vitamin D, which in the most sophisticated of individuals, your doctors are pretty smart, is 125-dihydroxycholecalciferol. It's a mouthful. You don't need to know anything about it. It's 25-OHD3. That's the measurement form of vitamin D. When you ask for that measurement and get the results back, 32 is considered to be 32 nanograms per milliliter is determined to be the normal level. Anything under that is abnormally low. Anything above that is not abnormally high, because there has to be a distinction made between what science has labeled normal as compared to what science knows is optimal. And so what you'll find out is that optimal vitamin D is well up to 70 to 80 nanograms per milliliter, and your goal is to get to the optimal and not just to break out at the normal level of 32 nanograms per milliliter. To do that, you're going to need to consider some pretty high doses of vitamin D. You've got two ways to do it. You can do it on your own orally. You're going to have to be taking at least 10,000 units a day or more. You're going to have to be doing it well over a year, but it is possible for you on your own to do it. Do not do it in a vacuum. Do it with a starting point vitamin D OHD3 level, and then at interval of, well, I'd say 6 months, keep measuring it to know when you've arrived at the right level. And then you have done this in a safe way, you've done it in a smart way, you've done it in a scientific way. Now in this office, some patients, and I'm with them if they want to do it in a more rapid form, we utilize what's been known around here as a vitamin D protocol. We will use an injectable form of vitamin D. We'll use 200,000 units of vitamin D in the hip one day. 3 weeks later, another 200,000 units in the opposite hip, and 3 weeks after that, we'll get another 25 OHD3 level. We really want to see what a total of 400,000 units of vitamin D will do in terms of raising their vitamin D level. Now, the literature is pretty clear on this, that for every 400,000 units, there should be about a 10 nanogram per milliliter rise, and then that, if it turns out, is what kind of increase we see in you, would mean that you're going to need, if you're just at 32, you're going to need 32, 42, 56, 7, 4 more injections of 400,000 units to get you to the optimal level. Once there, then you can be converted to an oral form of vitamin D, somewhere between 5,000 units a day in the summer and 10,000 units a day in the winter, and that is the vitamin D protocol that you also can pursue. So I'm happy to be able to share with you my thoughts on this today. I'm more than happy to share with you my new finding on how important vitamin D is to a specific problem that plagues a lot of patients of mine, and that is high blood pressure, and I'll entertain any questions you might have on the subject. In fact, we do have a knock on the door. Come on in the store. Hello and welcome aboard.
Hey, good morning, Dr. Courtnry.
Hi.
Hey, I got my levels back,
Good.
and I was at 140.
I think I know who this is. I remember getting that level back. And when we meet next, my dear friend, I was going to be able to tell you, you need to back off.
I quit.
Yeah, you have to back off. Just to let yourself get down. Now, you are my poster child for how taking the supplement, because you were, share with the listeners, if you would, how much vitamin D you were taking. Then you went even to get the injectable form, did you not?
No, never.
You never did?
No, never.
Okay, so...
But for years I've been taking the emulsified form of vitamin D, and, the drop was 2,000. I thought I was doing maybe 6,000 to 8,000.
6,000 to 8,000 for how many years?
Oh, 4 or 5 years now.
Okay. And it takes just about that much. Well, as I can see, you're my poster child for how on your own you can do it. If you as a listener want to do this in your way, slow way, it doesn't matter to you how long way, go right ahead. And I think the formula that our caller has that has taken them up so high, now 140, I think we are in a toxic range.
But yeah, it's interesting. Dr. Canal, who has the Cholecalciferal Council,
Okay.
he had one of his emails that I got from one of his newsletters talks about toxicity levels. And he claimed that the toxicity level of vitamin D3 is lower than water. And I don't know.
That's a unique way of putting it.
Yeah, he gave us reasons why. So if you drank this much water, you can actually die. Remember a woman died from a radio show?
Oh, yeah, I remember the case. It's only a couple years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and here I am. I'm obviously toxic to vitamin D and experiencing, well, I can see no symptoms from it.
Did you want to drop it down? I'll tell you how they came up with these optimal levels, and that is natural exposure to sunlight was what they decided to take a look at in the research. And so where they went was to Tahiti, where pretty much everybody runs around out there with a loincloth on. They're not covered. They're in sunlight all day, every day of the year. And so if we're going to find out an example of somebody who has the potential, at least, for the highest vitamin D levels, it would be a Tahitian male. And so that's what they did. They measured it in a number of subjects, and what they found out is that the average vitamin D level in those subjects was around 70 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. So if you're going to get, and all it takes is about 20 minutes of direct sunlight exposure to get what might be the equivalent of 20,000 milligrams of vitamin D conversion. That gives you some idea, and the other listeners some idea, of how they ever determined what the optimal level was and how they're starting to set parameters for toxic levels. Even though by the numbers you're toxic, you're not having any real symptoms from it. So, am I right about that?
Any side effects or anything?
No, I noticed.
I haven't had a cold or sniffles or flu or anything for 5 years.
Well, I'm telling you, your vitamin D protection has probably been one of the key reasons why you haven't had those kinds of maladies that most people do get and have to live with. Yet I would feel very comfortable if you drop that down to around 100. So if you just quit for about 3 months, 4 months, we're going into summer now anyway, perfect time to quit taking additional because you're going to be exposed to direct sunlight. But you're the poster child for how high you could get and still not be toxic, at least by symptoms, yet in a range that starts to make me feel uncomfortable, and I'm glad we're able to share it with the listeners today.
So I would definitely worry about kidney and liver damage at these levels, so I'm definitely getting off.
Well, one of the ways that you would learn that, by the way, is if you were toxic, you would find that your calcium level would rise. And so I know your blood work specifically, and you do not have a calcium rise. Otherwise, that would have tipped me off.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so you really can't be toxic with vitamin D unless you have a concomitant rise in your calcium level. You do not. That's why we can have this discussion really without any, major fear or nervousness. It's just, no, you got to let it drop down. You've reached a maximum. I'll let it smolder on down to a nice comfortable level until around 100, where you'll pick up it again, and you'll probably be 5,000 units a day in the winter, and maybe 7,000 or 8,000 units 5,000 units in the summer, 7,000 or 8,000 units in the winter, and we'll just keep checking and monitoring. And it may take a year to know exactly what the numbers are, but it shows a very rational way of dealing with the issue. And I hope we encourage our other listeners to pursue this in the exact same way.
Great. So about 3 months for the next test?
Yeah, about 3 months for the next test, especially going into summer as we are, where you're going to just be off of any daily supplementation for your vitamin D. Sun exposure being as it is, and I know you're outside a lot, will be the better foreteller of how we're going to have to adjust this once this thing slowly it comes on down to a level of around 100.
Great. Thanks so much, Doc. It's fascinating information.
It really was fascinating for me to come by. I didn't know it, and I'm so glad to be able to pass it on to everybody who's listening to me out there. Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Sure.
Bye.
There you have it. Hey, one patient, remember I said there were 4 patients that had normals. I didn't say that one patient was so normal, he was abnormal. And now we have told the rest of the story, 8,000 units for a number of years. Hey, look, if you got a question, feel free to come in on it. 412-825-6262. We're going to take a short break. Come back in a minute. 412-825-6262. Whatever question you have on your mind is okay with me.
This is Dennis J. Courtnry, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtnry, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. We're with you today on that Friday version of the show. We say get 'em up out of town version of the show, and not only are we there, we're in the gun lap segment of that show, allowing you, with about 10 minutes to go, if you choose to give us a call and find out what's on your mind. Can be blood pressure related, can be vitamin D related, it could be completely unrelated to the topic that we've been discussing today. Anything on your mind is okay with me. 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Now, speaking of some final points to make out of that newsletter, which, remember, came out in 2004, I don't know how it got buried and kept away from me, but stumbling across it as I did a couple of weeks ago really made it something I had to bring to you, my listener. And certainly let me bring it to many of the patients that I see here in consultation. But a couple other points to make about it. Those ACE inhibitors, and you might be on one. I found the most popular one recently to be something called lisinopril. Listen to the side effects that are just considered to be naturally occurring, and you can expect that you could develop a cough, headache, dizziness, skin rashes, kidney problems, swelling of the face and lips, and swelling of the throat at worst. Hey, these pharmaceutical preparations. No surprise to you that you can have these kinds of problems develop from it. How to avoid it? Use your body's own natural ACE inhibitor, vitamin D, and take it to optimal levels. Couple knocks on the door. Come on the store. You're next up. What's on your mind? Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Good morning, Dr. Courtney. I'm one of your patients, Pastor Bonnell.
Hello, Pastor. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, I just wanted to do an added comment about the vitamin D.
Go right ahead.
When I was tested under Dr. Terry Reams with the program and my pHs were running double acid, one of the doctors or the testers would give me very high doses, even one pill of 50,000 units of vitamin D, just to slow me down because I was running double acid. And it is amazing about the vitamin D. I've been on it for several years now, and just want to say I still appreciate your life and what you're doing here in the Pittsburgh area, and I'm sitting here in your parking lot because I'm ready for my next session.
Are you about ready? You're in the parking lot. Let me ask. Yeah, let me ask you this question. Do you know, because I know we would have run one on you, what your vitamin D level is most recently? Do you know it?
I really do not know the vitamin D level. I do know that I've been taking vitamin D for years now, and I'm taking really the 5,000 a day, and then for the winter time, and I'm taking your suggestion in the winter time to up it to 10,000. But usually I'm taking 5, 6, 7,000. There is some that I take from a daily. It's a D3 for 5,000, and also there's a spray that goes under the tongue.
Yes, there are.
Each spray is like 1,000 units, so I've been using both.
Well, let's say this. Because you came to me from another doctor, we have missed an important step. We really do need to get a vitamin D level to find out where you stand. To be working in the dark like this is not good. So we'll do that, Rev. Hey, thanks for the call.
Okay, God bless.
Come on in. Get out of the cold. Come on in from parking lot. Come on in. Oh, that's precious. And it's taken quite a bit, has he not? 5,000 plus for quite some time. Hey, I heard another knock at the door. Come on the store. Hello and welcome in for you. Hello?
Hello, Dr. Courtney.
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
I've been listening to you talking about vitamin D.
Yes, ma'am.
By just you talking, I can't write all of this down. Is there any literature that I can get on the vitamin D? Because I was just told by the doctor that I'm low on vitamin D.
Well, I'm happy to hear that your doctor measures your vitamin D. I hope it's the 25-OHD3. That's the first thing to check. If you'll do this, if you'll give us a call here at the office, I'll just send you out a copy of this because you can't write that fast. I know you also have one other option that, and I'm not so sure that you have computer access. That would be fair to say, right?
No.
Okay, so I would want you to have a copy of the article. Give us a call, and we'll send you a copy of this newsletter from Jonathan Wright. It spells out everything I've just said today so that you won't have to worry about what you missed. I know I talk too fast for anybody to write that down. Will that be okay with you?
Yes, that'll be fine. And does that have anything to do with your white blood cells being low?
The fact that there is quite a bit to do with your immune system when it comes to vitamin D, I think what I've learned is I think vitamin D involves every aspect of you and every aspect of us. And to hear that your doctor thought you were a little low on vitamin D is a little bit intriguing to me. I wonder what your vitamin D level is. Do you happen to know?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, it's understandable why he may not have told you the number. I'm just interested in, number one, did he ask for the right vitamin D level? I find that to be a big mistake. You have to ask for 25 OHD3. And if that was the one that was obtained, then that's a fair assessment of your vitamin D status. And then how much vitamin D did your doctor tell you to take?
5,000 units.
Okay, and 5,000 units seems to be a nice dose, very safe dose for you to be taking. And you've been doing it for how long?
Well, I just started doing this.
All right.
That's why I'm interested in all this.
All right, so let's say that in about 6 months, if you're going to do it orally, you're going to go back to that great doctor of yours and say, would you do a repeat vitamin D level on me?
Well, I'm supposed to do it every month. month for the next 4 months.
Well, my, well, that's maybe a bit of an overkill. It's certainly okay with me. I don't expect that on a monthly basis you're going to have tremendous increases in your total vitamin D level. But if your doctor wants to monitor you that closely, I certainly can't find fault with that. Okay?
Well, it's the vitamin D level, like he wants me to take it once every week, 5,000.
Oh, once a week?
Yeah.
Oh, I want you to take it once a day.
Well, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, okay, so at once a week, I can tell you, you're not going to have a dent made in your vitamin D level by checking it every month. You maybe will need to see that on your own to say, hey, my vitamin D level isn't budging because you're only taking...
Well, that's why I want to be educated about it.
Okay. Well, if you give us a call, so we have an address for you, we'll send you a copy of this.
Is that 442?
442? Our number, you mean? Phone number? No, our phone number is 724 942 3002.
3002. I thank you very, very much.
All right, ma'am. Good luck to you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Yeah. Heard a couple problems with that, didn't you? Nonetheless, happy to hear that the doctor was concerned that the vitamin D level is low. 5,000 units a week, I think, is very low. Maybe he's worried about other issues that I don't know about, in which case I have to yield to the doctor. He's seeing her on a daily basis, or a weekly basis, or at least a monthly basis. He knows her best, so you really can't be critical of how slowly he's moving. Maybe she has kidney issues. Maybe she has high calcium levels. Nonetheless, it'll all come out in the wash a month from now. The vitamin D level hasn't budged. He should adjust. But I can tell you, as a general rule, you're going to need at least 5,000 a day for quite some time in order to get anywhere near optimal levels of vitamin D. Hey, we're still here with, a minute or two to go. 412-825-6262 is the number to get in on us with this gun lap right at the end, coming down the home stretch. And I'll listen for any further knocks at the door. Otherwise, we'll start to pull this all together. I've enjoyed, and if you'll send me, if you want one of these, a self-addressed stamped envelope, I'll be happy to send you a copy of Volume 11, Issue 1, January 4, of Dr. Jonathan Wright's Nutrition and Healing newsletter. It has been very revealing to me. It will be extremely revealing to you. There's one error in the newsletter, and that is when Dr. Wright has you measuring the vitamin D level, he's saying that you should order the 125 D3 level, which is your active vitamin D level. And I would differ with that. I say no, 2508 D3 level is the accurate way to measure it, because the active vitamin only has a half-life of a few minutes. It's very tough to follow those levels. Bongos in the background. It's time to get on out of here. Look, you have a great weekend. Don't forget, Deborah Ray is with us on Monday morning. You don't want to miss that. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney saying so long for AM Impact on your health.